Hi, welcome to Bourbon Turntable. We're a show where we blend the love of whiskey with the love of music. Today, we have a very, very special show, something that I'm really excited about. We have Jack and Tim from the show Monday Suck, and Drew is with us as well. Ben had some family things today that came up, and he couldn't join us to record, but I know he'll be anxious to hear how this goes, and will certainly be on with us next time. So, as we're getting started here, Jack and Tim, I want you guys to take just a few minutes and tell us a little about yourselves, and then we'll get into some whiskey. Then we'll get into talking about some music that you guys like, and just see where that goes. So, Tim, why don't we start with you?
Yeah. Tim Van Riper, Single Barrel Snob on Instagram. Been kind of immersed in the whiskey and bourbon trail for, I guess, like 4 years now here in Louisville, Kentucky. Um, Love talking to people, love talking to people about whiskey, and love teaching people about whiskey.
Awesome. Yeah. Tim, I've known you maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe a little
Probably.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So been a friend for a while, and it's good to see the success that you're having, and it's a real honor to have you here on the show with us.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Jack, what's up, buddy?
Jack Bigadoo, um, born and raised in West Africa, being a Nebraska resident for about 17 years now. So I can say I'm a Cornhusker now. uh, I just love education and love whiskey. So I brought those two words together, and I'm now the hood sommelier online, and I just love to talk about whiskey and educate people on things I've learned through my journey.
Yeah, and you do a great job with that. And we'll get into a little bit more of some of the things that you're doing in a few minutes. But first, we're going to drink a little whiskey. So I sent to you guys a blind sample. So if you can get that ready, give you guys a chance to try that out. I've got a little bit of it here as well. I was trying to find something that you might not have had yet. So that may have been a vain effort, but we'll see what happens.
It's very funky.
Very
Mhm.
funky.
It's very funky on the nose, and I apologize, but I had a cigar with my buddies, so I want to make
Yeah.
sure I'm being fair while I'm assessing this, which is very funky.
Yeah, I get a lot of oak spice and a little bit of a citrus funk. It's not like a rum funk. It's like almost like orange peel type vibe to it. It's interesting.
It's quite, yeah. It's it smells old.
It smells old. Interesting.
Yeah,
Man,
it's like a no barrel.
Is this
this
finished?
such a this
It
is
is. It is not.
It is
wow.
not finished. Okay.
This is such a terrible descriptor, but I'm gonna try to redeem it. So, have you ever had like an orange go bad, or like an orange peel like kind of start to like mold? So
Yes,
Okay.
the take away all the bad part of the mold, but like that funky part, like I think you nailed it, Drew. Like
yeah.
the funky orange peel, like it's
Mhm.
For some reason, kombucha comes to mind.
dude, totally. That's spot. There you go.
Yeah.
That's the
It's like
like a
yeasty, old
yeasty,
citrus.
Yep.
mushroomy.
Yeah,
See, I didn't think kombucha, but now that you say that, I hear it. I was thinking more like an Earl Grey tea type of thing.
Mhm.
It's very heavy on like the dark aromatic type vibe for me. But yeah, kombucha is a great descriptor, Jack. That really clicks now that you say that.
it has. It's just. They might as well call it funky. Color wise, it's pretty light on the color.
hmm
Still have some residues in there. Uh, I mean, I love the fact that it's. I don't know. I'm thinking of blood orange. not really
Yeah.
no citrus, no more blood orange,
Hmm.
light cherry. Obviously, you get a little bit of oak on there.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's not more than something about the barrel because it doesn't smell like a little bit of that wheat breadiness.
Hmm.
And again, I smoke a cigar, so my palate's a little tinted, but it gave me that little wheat, that yeah, some wheat there. Definitely say it's not more than 6 years.
Kevin, can we get any insight into it?
Yeah, and I'm not gonna ask anybody to guess what it is. So this
Is it craft?
yes,
Yeah,
Okay. And is it barrel proof and unfiltered?
it is not barrel proof.
it doesn't smell barrel proof. It's quite is out at least is it will be 100 proof.
Yeah,
100.
it's actually exactly 100 proof.
Okay.
It's a bottled and bond product,
Okay.
and it is from Chattanooga Whiskey.
All right.
Yeah. The whiskey that I have beef with.
The whiskey that you have a beef with?
So did you choose this whiskey because you know I have beef with them?
No, I didn't know that. But this is going to be a great story. So
I was
wanna
not
hear
aware
this.
either. Please enlighten us.
Oh my
Oh, I love
God.
it.
Holy shit.
You know what, Kevin?
Oh,
I would like to
swear
quit
that
the
felt
show
like a
right now
setup.
because you chose
Oh
violence.
my
We
God.
barely started the show and you chose violence. Right?
Oh,
I see what you just did there.
oh
So
my God. You
what's the
revealed
beef?
that way too soon.
Yeah, you this
Oh,
is almost
shit.
way too apropos
Oh, man.
when it comes to what I don't like talking about. So funny thing is, Chattanooga whiskey is probably one of the whiskey that I've never truly appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And also, obviously, I like to say the way you get introduced to a whiskey can ruin the whole whiskey for you, or
Absolutely.
make you not want to actually try anything else. So Chattanooga whiskey, actually, the same time I was discovering Alan Bishop, Bottle and Bun,
Mm-hmm.
the next suggestion on Silvac was Chattanooga whiskey,
Right.
and it was actually their 1854 94,
Right.
and their experimental mead barrel. So obviously, I'm like, oh, craft distillery. I need to actually jump in and support. No, I have it here. It's 1816. That's what
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, terrible. 1816 is not a good whiskey because the palate, my palate was just, it was falling very flat. And they use Solera barrel, which I really love Solera barrels because my favorite whiskey when I started in the whiskey industry probably about 10 years ago was a
Mhm.
Glenfiddich 15. And the
Yep.
Glenfiddich 15 used Solera barrels.
Mhm.
So I was really excited about it. Didn't really work for me at 90 proof, falling a Solera barrel. Was a little very sharp on the taste, like very, very sharp, seemed very young, and didn't have what I like to call some maturity to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and try the experimental mead barrel. That's where everything went south. Um, I've tried it, and I'm telling you, the taste was just. I'm gonna be honest, foul. Like I tasted it, I'm like, what actually threw me back? I was like, who let this juice come out? Right? That's what I was. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere you got to take pride in what you send out there. And he's just very foul in that. Like the same funk that you get on this bottle, which I have to say, you got me. Because this bottle and bond has that same funk that Chattanooga has.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell a little bit of maturity being bottle and bond. They should have let that juice mature a little more. So at
Mhm.
least I know it's 4 years. And I think what they did, obviously, at the beginning, everybody's trying to take something out. You just can't let the barrel sit around.
Right.
And
Sure.
that juice was very young. That meat juice was also very young. It was sharp. It was very unbalanced. And the flavor was just all over the place, right? All over the place. And immediately I'm like, okay, if this is what Chattanooga is putting out, 2 bottles in a row, very bad experience. They owe me $69.99 for the experimental barrel that they put out. And since then, I just didn't care for Chattanooga. And for me, it's like if you're it's like Kevin walking in or Tim walking in and go, "Hey, asshole, how you doing?" Right. For me, from that point forward, it's like we cannot be friends because you just introduced yourself to me the wrong way possible. Two bottles, two failed experience. And it was just from that point forward, I always tell people are like, what's one whiskey you never drink? Chattanooga whiskey. But I stand corrected by this juice that you just sent us, because this juice is quite balanced, is 100 proof. You get all the citrus, all the notes, but it's became a running jokes even on our show on Monday Sucks, where we always say, what's the one thing if you woke up and chose violence you would not drink?
It's the beauty of blind tasting, right?
Yes,
it gets us all once again.
No, but that's not even it, because the funk was okay with me. Obviously the taste was okay, what was definitely well for me. A lot of citrus. The funk was a little strong at the beginning, letting the air out really well. But I would definitely say that this is not a whiskey, if I taste it today, that I will not like. It's definitely a whiskey that I can drink and enjoy. Obviously, it's giving me a little bit of that, not hug, but a little bit of that heartburn aftertaste. But I don't mind it.
Right.
But since then, pretty much they kind of lost my loyalty as a whiskey lover. I'm like, 2 bottles, 2 fell experience. I don't want it.
Sure.
Everybody can keep it. This is pretty much where I'll be like, oh, maybe now if somebody asks me, what do you think of Chattanooga whiskey? I'll be like, oh, bottle and bond. Maybe try the bottle and bond to start with. Don't do like
Kevin,
me.
is this something you picked up locally?
I actually picked this up in Tennessee.
Okay.
Yep. And it is they're doing 2 bottled and bond releases a year, a spring release and a fall release.
Sure.
This is the spring release, and this is their first bottled and bond product. And the thing that I thought was interesting about it is they use a very high malt mash bill, and this is a blend of 4 different mash bills, each of which is at least 25% malt. Now it's maybe a different kind of malt, but that may be where some of that funkiness comes into play.
Sure.
That kind of that yeasty funkiness comes out of right on the nose. It goes away a little bit if you let it air out. It goes away a little bit. It doesn't. You still get that funkiness right on the nose right away. Smell like your grandma's house right away when you walked in.
So maybe I've unintentionally brought a peace treaty between you and Chattanooga Whiskey.
Yes, Chattanooga Whiskey needs to thank you for reintroducing me to their juice, because as far as I was concerned, never in the day on my dead body you ever see me have Chattanooga. I still have bottles here. I'm trying to see who's my new whiskey friends that actually is just eager about anybody that actually just drink anything. I'll be like, hey, I have this whiskey for you. Congratulations.
That's funny. So now let's. This is maybe a really good segue into. We talked about something that Jack didn't like before, but let's talk. I want you guys to talk a little bit about what you would consider your preferred profile in a whiskey or a spirit.
I would let Tim go first.
Oh, I'm intrigued by this. Tim and I have been drinking together for several years at this point, so I'm really curious to see what you say.
It's interesting to me how I'd say in like the last year it's kind of changed in a way I never thought it would, and I'm finding myself stepping into more extra aged products or products that are carrying an extra age statement. I'll throw a few examples for you. this Remus Repeal Batch 5 that just came out. I got this yesterday, and it's, I'm putting the hurt on that bottle. That's a blend of 13, 14, 15, and 16-year-old bourbon. Blue Run 13.5-year. The Wild Turkey 17-year-old bonded. That kind of like more oak forward, but balancing out with a good amount of sweetness and a good amount of spice. I find myself like maybe like a one-time special drink before getting into more drinks of the night. I'm kind of starting there, and then maybe ending up at like a Wild Turkey or an Evan Williams or an Elijah Craig. Something, starting at the top and then kind of working my way down.
Yeah.
But lately it's weird because I never thought that I would be in that like that flavor profile. I've kind of always been, my go-to has always been Elijah Craig single barrels, and because they're so different, there's so many that are off profile and so different than just the regular Heaven Hill traditional Elijah Craig, and it's been really fun to kind of like surf through those and taste all these different flavors and notes that don't really typically show up in their bourbon.
Yeah. So with some of the things that you named, they're kind of a ultra aged product. Is that so? Is an oak note something that you're really going for? Or
I guess it's weird because like I'll find some nights where I'm chasing that oak and I'll look back at what I had and I'm like, damn, these are all like over 12-year-old aged bourbons. I guess that's the note that I'm chasing. If I can drink something and it's balanced between having that good like earthy, musty, oaky note and sweet and spice, and one's not overdone either way, man, I'm all about that. That's kind of where I'm at right now with what I like, or what I find myself going to on a regular basis for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Jack?
So funny thing is, I started really not drinking even bourbon. So about probably 10 years ago, coming from West Africa, what you know as whiskey is truly single malt. So a single malt is where I thrive. I'm very comfortable in single malt wheated bourbon that is more, I would say, malted bourbon. So my first impression of what a great bourbon was actually I like E.H. Taylor 4 Grain. I thought it was great. Then I actually had Alan Bishop's 4 Grain. I thought it was just amazing because the level of malt that was in it. But I like bourbon that have a weeded more. Funny thing is, I'm not the first one that would drink a Weller, even though it's weeded. But you'll catch me usually having. I think when it comes to palate, your palate grows, evolve, become more mature. And I went from the guy that likes single malt and just like very malted whiskey to now I see myself 2 years later and I'm loving Wild Turkey, right? Very oak forward, and I'm like a Jack Daniel rye barrel strength, right? Castle and Key rye, So I'm seeing my palate almost flourish and evolving almost now, which making me more of a, I like to say, more well-rounded whiskey person, and I appreciate more whiskey because now I'm like, oh, you know what, today I'm craving a rye. Let me have some, some Kentucky Owl, batch 2 or 3. I'm like, oh, I need that because I want a little more of that. So I would drink a single malt. I'm an Isla guy, and I like peated whiskey. So that's where I live and sleep in. But today I had friends over. They were all drinking things, and this whole time I've been drinking Jack Daniel barrel proof rye because I just felt like it. So I feel like in the last 3 years, I think the more you get into it, the more your palate is evolving. So you can really, you catch me in 3 years from now, I'll probably look at you and say, make this barrel rye. Toasted barrels is my favorite thing because that's where I'm at. But I know that if I wake up in the morning and somebody says, can you pick one bottle so you can drink forever? I'm probably picking a Boona Haven. barrels, Bunnahabhain single malt, and that's what I'm going home with because that'll be, Scotch should be my first choice
Right.
before bourbon.
What are your thoughts on American single malt? Have you found anything there that you really like?
American single malt, I would say, is still growing. They're still trying. They're still getting their feet wet. One of the distilleries so far that impressed me have been a VA distillery in Virginia. They've been coming up. I mean, they've worked with a lot of master distiller from the UK and Scotland that they're bringing more flavor forward. Their courage and conviction is just spot on of what anybody should look for when it comes to single malt. I haven't, people talk about Kovo, people talk about other things, but VA distilleries so far have impressed me on their single malt. American single malt, I think, is the new business, is the new love child, is that thing that people are discovering now.
Right.
So being someone who's more of a purist, I feel like it's the new kid on the block. It's like, who are you?
Right.
I want to know more about you before I start loving you. But VA Distillery has impressed me so far.
Okay. Yeah, the American single malt is something that I've just started to dip my toe in the water with. I think Balcones does some good stuff. Deerhammer in Colorado, Westland out in Washington State. Stranahan.
Corsair.
Yeah.
Corsair. Yeah.
Now you want to look at some funky stuff. Those guys
Corsair
are doing
does
some funky stuff.
Corsair has like a quinoa. Quinoa whiskey is the funkiest one they have.
Yeah,
they have a weird smoked whiskey. That quinoa one though, that thing is.
But that's what I don't like. I feel like people think they have to reinvent the wheel when it comes to American single malt.
Sure.
And that annoys me because if you look in the history of single malt or in the history of malted whiskey in Europe, the deepness and the richness of the whiskey have never been in the distillate. Right? It has been in the ability of blending and the cask that you're using.
Right.
So when you're looking at a single malt today, there's a reason why if you look in Europe, there's a lot of independent bottlers because you can buy the distillate from anywhere. But it's like, we can all buy the same shirt, but what style do you put to it? How you wearing it, right? What type of cask, maturation, what type of blending style do you have that actually give it that je ne sais quoi, right? So when I come to American single malt, I'm like, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel, right? Why don't you keep it pure and bring me, a Jack Barrel rye or, a Michter's rye or some cask that you can bring in and age it to give it that really, your specific way of doing it. When you bring in all these weird ass flavors or quinoa, all these things that you're trying to make it like, are we going to be different? You're really staying away from what I call the average consumer of singles.
Sure. I don't mind people trying something different, being bold enough and having the courage to, hey, let's put something down and see how it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. If it does, it does. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to make good whiskey. And it can't just be a gimmick. And so that's the ultimate test, right? What's it taste like? Is it any good? And it may be quinoa whiskey, but is it any good?
Sure.
That's going to be the final judge. But that's interesting, guys, and we'll maybe get into some more of that as we're moving along through the show. But right now, I want to talk about your show as we're finishing up side A of our show. But I want you guys to talk about your show, Monday Suck. I love the picture. So tell us a little bit about how the show got started and tell everybody what your show is all about.
Yeah, totally. I think it'd be good if we two-part this because you get to hear the story from both sides. So during, I guess, the first part of COVID shutdowns. I was deemed essential because I'm in the fucking bourbon industry, I guess, and I still had to go to work every day. But there was a lot of people that were stuck at home, and so when I would get back home, one of the things that I did is I would just start scrolling through hashtags of brands or bourbons or whatever was in my mind at that night is kind of where I was going. And I came across Jack one night. In fact, here, as I'm telling the story, I'll scroll through and see if I can find the picture that I actually found. The first original picture that he posted that I came across. And there was just something about Jack that stuck out. I don't know what it was. I mean, now I'll say it was fate, but at the time, there was just I could not put it away. It was just like it burned in my brain. I was like, I have to message this guy, as weird as it is. Like, I have to message him. I have to see what he's about. We gotta hang out. So I messaged him, was like, hey man, I was like, I know you're super new here. I think your account was what, maybe 2 weeks old, Jack? It's 2 weeks old, and I was like, man,
Right about that. I was third week.
Yeah, I was like, we got to at least talk. Like, I don't know, like, yeah. So, yeah, I said, hey, would you be willing to send me your address so I could send you some samples? Go for it, Jack. Tell him the other half of the story.
So I've been into, I when I started in whiskey, I was just by trade, I'm an insurance agent. I'm in business insurance. That's what I have my degree in, and I started my own insurance agency. Been doing that for about seven years now. But year 5, obviously, at the beginning of COVID, I was just bored at home. What I've always done when it comes to whiskey, I was the whiskey guy in the sense of I was terrible at golfing, and a lot of my friends to invite me, I always brought good whiskey, and conversation always went because it went from people calling me going, hey, I heard my friend told me you just have good whiskey. Do you mind coming and they will invite me over. It brought me a lot of clients. And and a lot of events that people would do, they'll bring me in to come do cocktails from them or help them with whiskey. But really, I'm a nerd at heart, so everything I do, I like to know more about. But when I was home for COVID, and my friend was like, dude, you do all this whiskey thing, you have this whiskey around you, why don't you go online? Why don't you ever want it to be online? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm already online as the insurance guy. I don't know about whiskey. And he's like, no, you really want to bring this thing out there. You're bored at home anyway. You probably want to do something with it. So I took a couple weeks, thought about it. And I'm like, you know what? And at that time, I was moving to this house that we're in. But I actually had to make a personal decision. I was living what would be considered a suburb at that time. And as I'm going through activities and during that time in this country, we were going through a lot of stuff that were affecting our community. And I really wanted to do something different. And living in those suburbs, I felt like I was really out of touch with people in the minority community that I identify with. So one of the things that I've done, I decided to buy a house actually in the hood, what is considered the hood at that time, which is not really, but I wanted to be, I wanted my daughter to grow up on people that looked like her, and she didn't feel like she was so different. As I came here, I was laughing with one friend of mine, and I'm like, oh, I'm in the hood now. I'm the coolest guy around because I'm in the hood. And as they're talking about it, I mean, originally I was born and raised in the French country. And one night we were drinking, and he's like, you're like one of those French people. What's French people call it? I'm like, oh, sommelier. That's what you call it, sommelier. You know all the whiskey. You always telling us about it. And I'm like, you know what? I think I have a name for myself. I'm gonna be the hood. Right? I'm gonna be the hood someday. The reason why is because I realized also that whiskey, truly, if you look at whiskey, is an old white man, spirit. Right. It never been.
Thank you. Yeah.
It never been sexy. So I really wanted to be different. when I approached the whiskey. I wanted you when you hear the name, which I hope everybody wanted to hear. Heard somebody that's probably a black man walking in. If you hear heard somebody, but really what I want is to build a community where people don't feel discriminated. People are
Mhm.
not afraid to learn from the crackhead to the doctor. Everybody can feel like they're part of it because that's really literally what my hood looked like.
Mm.
I don't live in a rich area, but you have doctors that are aligned up here that love this old style houses, 1900 neighborhood. But
Hmm.
I can tell you that if I drive a block away by that gas station, there's probably a crackhead trying to ask me a question while I'm passing by. But that's really everybody that is included. So as I found the name, my best friend Jubel, which is a designer, say, "Okay, tell me more about it." Right? As I gave him all the thing I wanted, he's like, "Okay, let me work on something for you." But I say it has to include like a Glen Karen because I want it to be hood chic, right? Has to be sophisticated, but
Hmm.
also has to be a little hood about it. It's like, well, what if we do the hood like with like Glen Karens, maybe a barrel or something? I'm like, okay, go for it, go crazy. So he designed the whole mock-up and brought it to me, and I'm like, okay, I like it. Let's do it. So I went to register an LLC, and I made the sign, I made T-shirt. I'm like, okay, put myself out there online, Facebook, YouTube, and that. But really, education was the biggest thing for me. It wasn't really about talking about the whiskey. It was just hanging out with people that do things, but
Hmm.
educate the people. So I started this thing as nightcap with the hood somebody. That's what I would do every night. So every
Mhm.
Monday, which was the day that was always the longest day for me, I would come and put my IG on. I'm like nightcap with the hood somebody. And this guy called Single Barrel Snub will always be on my live, right? Always be on my live. You always participate. And at that time, I had less than 200 followers. This guy always be, and after one of my shows, I think the second time I did it, he sent me a message, "Hey man, do you mind if you send me your address? I want to send you some sample." I'm like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And I and
That's
then
most of our interactions with
correct,
him the
correct.
first time.
You know, so he sent me samples. One broke out of the samples, and and then we exchanged numbers. We were texting. I'm like, you know what? Let's go through the samples. Then we did another live together. But the funny thing is, when we did our first live, the amount of people that just participated, that related to it, I was like, oh. Then we did another live together, and then third live that we did, now we realize that we went from 5 people watching to now 10 people watching to now 15 people watching. And it was like people that were just regular schmegular people that were just chatting.
Mhm.
And in the state our country was in, I felt like were really comfortable seeing a guy with an accent that was talking about whiskey and another guy that had tattoos and a big old beard talking about the same thing and becoming friend right in front of them.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I think it was like right after our third show, he texted me, he's like, "I think we should do this more often." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Man, I think we should just make it a show." And he's like, "I think that's a great idea." I'm like, "I think," and we do this every Monday anyway. What if we call it like Monday sucks or some stupid because we all meet every Monday anyway, and it fucking sucks anyway when you talk about our days because we need a stiff drink when we are chatting. But it started as just us two guys just that are friends that just want to talk about their day or their week, just want to vent about it while drinking some good whiskey.
Hmm.
Next
Yep.
thing you know, we are now one of the people that are known on Instagram that comes on every Monday. And now we have, the show is now on YouTube, Facebook, and on IG. Every Monday we just come on and we build a huge community around us. We build a following around us. And we use our platform usually for good. We're using it to help other people in the industry, from people that have a cause happening to them, people that got sick during COVID. The latest one we've done is we've raised fund for the people in New Orleans, the
Right.
hospitality minority people,
Mhm.
raised about $8,900 for these people. And we're using our platform not only to educate people, we pissed a few people off in the process, but educate people,
Just a
but
little
turn
bit.
around and also use it to actually empower everyone in the industry and tell them that we are here to really help. This is what Monday Sucks about. It's about diversity, bringing people together while we're enjoying some amazing whiskey. One of the tagline of the show that we always use is that we are people lovers first and whiskey lovers
Screen
second.
Lovers second.
Yeah, I like it.
It's big
So
time.
I gotta do this really quick too, because it's important to me, because Jack brought up that whiskey is no longer a rich white man's drink. You know, Jack's an immigrant. I look like I just got out of prison, according to some people. And I mean, this is the other reason that the show works so well, is because if we were in a room together and you didn't know who we are, you would have no idea that we were as close as we are, that we've been hanging out as long as we are. I mean, he comes over to my house and when he's here and hangs out with Rebecca and Harrison, like, he's part of my family. And I know when I go
Yeah.
to Omaha, I'm going to be a part of his too. So this picture was taken back towards the beginning of the year, and it's Jack and I together, you know, like, you know, contrast, like super white, super dark, right?
Very
And
confident.
very contrast. And this is the thing, this is just goes along with what Jack and I are doing. It's like, this is the face of whiskey. It's different looking, it's weird, it's strange, it's foreign, and anything else that doesn't meet your normal narrative. So
Love
that's one
that.
of the
Right.
things that Jack and I push for every single Monday. And I would say even in our own personal lives, and what we're doing when we're educating people, or when we're just, you know, shooting the breeze with somebody.
Right.
This is, I would say, this is, yes, we are. I mean, our number one, we're people lovers and whiskey lovers, but the second narrative right behind that is things are different, and we're here banging down your door so you know it.
Hmm. Yeah, I like the concept of you start out bringing people together that may be from diverse backgrounds because you're talking about whiskey, because you're drinking bourbon, but then so much more emerges from that. From that point, now we can have conversations about things that really matter. Now we can develop real, true relationships. It may have all started around whiskey, but it grows so much from that if you're open-minded to it.
Yep.
Yep.
Speaking of growth, one of the other things, Jack, that you're doing is the Afrofusion
Yeah.
stuff. So talk to us a little bit about what's going on there as well.
As I'm going through my journey of whiskey, one of the things I realized is that actually being, you know, a young professional immigrant myself, I've realized that a lot of immigrants that I know, you know, being from obviously West African immigrants, or, you know, any immigrants, were colonized by foreign countries, and mostly is the UK or France, which most of these immigrants only drink usually single malt, right? Johnny Walker or Lagavulin and all these things. But bourbon is not a thing. It's not really a thing that they go after. They don't chase it. They don't look for it because it's not something that we drink. Well, if you go into you know, a restaurant today or in Africa, and you say, I want whiskey, the best thing you can get as a cheap whiskey, if it's not single malt, will be Jack Daniel, because that's the international name everybody knows.
Right.
But if you ask for a Woodford or a, a Booker's or a Michter's, you're not gonna find that. So, you know, the one of the things I wanted is to bring my discovery of bourbon into the forefront of those young professional immigrants. What's the best way we come together is around two things: food and spirits.
Right.
Those two things are, you got to eat. I don't care who you are, you gotta eat, right? And everybody like different taste. And if you drink, you got to drink. So what I wanted to do is to bring an experience where our differences comes together around what pretty much me, the hood sommelier, represent. a lover of whiskey and a lover of diversity, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
what if we take what we know best, which is bourbon, and bring it on the forefront? But yet, we bring those young professionals, what they know well is their food, West
Hmm.
African food. So, when West African food or African food meet whiskey, you get Afrofusion, right? So from the sales of our ticket, you can definitely tell that you got diversity there. You got people from West Africa, young professional between 30 and 35 euro buying their ticket, and you got white men and women buying their ticket as well because they want to come try the African food. They already know bourbon, but African people are just coming to say, "What is this whiskey thing you're saying? I want to come know about it." But because you look like me, sound like me, I trust that you're gonna teach me something new. Now, so I proposed this to a bunch of brands around Kentucky to say, "Hey, I really want you guys to be part of this." I was fortunate enough that Heaven Hill was actually one of the people that say, "You know what? We want to try this. We want you to do this." So they allow me to do this in 3 cities: Omaha, which is where I live, Louisville, which is the capital, and DC. So November 29th, which is next week, we'll have the Omaha one, the inaugural one, where we are in every city we're featuring a chef, an African chef, and I'm bringing a brand ambassador from
Hmm.
Heaven Hill to come tell us about the bourbon, educate the people about it, and it's just gonna be a cocktail and food four pairing thing. You
Hmm.
get you welcome, you get a cocktail, and we're doing cocktail with very, you know, Creole and very exotic African, flavors. Your
Right.
old fashioned is going to be a little spicy. Your welcome cocktail is going to be, guava, mango, and all these flavors that you are not used to on a regular day. So it's gonna be four food pairing and four in with each
Hmm.
one have to cocktail. But one of the things we do in Africa is we love moonshine, and so what I wanted to pair with our middle food will be a neat pour. So we get to do a real tasting, a real bourbon tasting with a neat pour with a castrant, a barrel proof whiskey where we can
Hmm.
actually try that and go, okay, this is what you thought you like moonshine. How about you give a shot to this thing called bourbon that is castrant that you can
Yeah.
embrace and we can bring it together. So
Right.
Afrofusion, I'm hoping is going to be a yearly thing and more distillery can jump onto this and we're going to take it all over the
Right.
United States, anywhere where any immigrant can come in and embrace whiskey and embrace food, and we can all come together having a conversation and a good time.
Hmm.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
people that may love bourbon but not be familiar with African food, they can get a
Absolutely.
ticket and it can go the other direction, right?
Absolutely.
And
So
tickets are available. You have links on your Facebook page and
on my
your
Facebook
Instagram.
page, on my
Yep.
Instagram is on Eventbrite. You look Hood Sommelier on Eventbrite. You can
Okay.
actually find me, Hood Sommelier on Eventbrite. The Omaha event was sold out in 5 days.
Wow.
It
Wow.
tells you how much people actually want to try the food.
Sure.
The Louisville event is still open right now. We are about 20% sold out right now. So there's still plenty of ticket, but we are limiting things to still make it COVID safe for people. It's only going to be 40 people in that room.
Okay.
We'll be actually really blessed if you're in Louisville or you're around Louisville. Bernie Lovers is going to be there. He'll be one of
Great.
the people that actually is going to be
My
there
dude,
representing
Bernie.
Heaven Hill, and he's going to come in and talk to us about, in Omaha, we have Jack Choate, which is more of the East Coast guy
Yep.
that's going to come
Love
on.
Jack.
Yeah,
He's a
Good
great
guy.
dude.
and here is going to be Bernie Lover. So my goal is to always bring something new to the people, but really not make it too invasive, right? Come enjoy some food, come enjoy some drinks, and let's
Yeah.
all get together and just have a good time.
Absolutely.
Jack, do you
Again.
have a venue picked out for Louisville already?
Louisville right now, our venue is Afrokanza. So Afrokanza is also African owned, new lounge ready to
Mhm.
go. They have a restaurant and a lounge that is actually pretty spacious. And I also want to introduce people to what is an African owned business look like, right? Come on in, come check it out. You
That's cool.
you'd be quite interesting. Originally, we were supposed to do it at the Evan William Experience, but we know Heaven Hill is going through a few things now, so the staffing was kind of tough.
Right.
So it was kind of hard, but we don't know. You know, if if they're able to figure something out before the first week of November, we may actually just do it at the Evan William Experience and get people there, and hopefully you get a chance to grab a bottle while you're there.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well,
Awesome.
Congratulations on that. It's a great concept. Sounds like you've got a lot of success with it, and I love bringing people together around whiskey and food.
Food.
So two of my favorite things.
I think two of our all favorite things.
Guilty,
Mhm.
guilty,
Amen.
guilty.
Hey,
Yeah.
whiskey, food, and friends. It's tough to beat those things as a combination. So we'll look forward to hearing more about that in the future, and just seeing how great all this goes for you.
Don't sleep on those tickets.
Oh yeah, it's only
I bought-
40 people
I bought my
that we
ticket.
have there.
Jack sent me
Yeah.
the link, and I was like, "Got my ticket. I'm good."
All right.
I got
will
my
have to-
ticket so fast.
I will have to get mine as well, so that'll be something special. Now I want to kind of flip it over to side B of the show, where we talk a little bit about music. And one of the things that a lot of times on the show, we'll have a very specific topic that we'll talk about, and we will maybe come from different perspectives on the same music. And sometimes it's just personal preference. Sometimes it's differences in generations. But I want to talk with you guys a little bit about what kind of music you like and how that speaks to you. Now, Tim, you sent me a few artists, names of a few bands and artists that you listen to. And I've got a little graphic here that I put together a few of those. So
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
Tim.
there's some diversity there that was
Oh yeah.
uh,
I only
that-
know one person in that group.
I knew a
Everything
couple.
else I don't know.
I knew a couple, but I've listened to a little bit of this, and just talk a little bit about some of these bands and what
Yeah,
drew you
man.
to them, and how they speak to you.
So, let's see if I can break this down so it's not like a 2-hour conversation. So my big pull and my draw, where I kind of feel at home, safe and secure, would be hardcore, and more specifically like beatdown hardcore. So more like Comeback Kid,
Mhm.
Comeback Kid, This Is Hell. I know that you didn't have those bands out there, but the beatdown side of hardcore would be more like Comeback Kid.
Mhm.
And the reason that I gravitated towards that is when I had just come off of, I was homeless for like a year and a half, and I'd just come off being homeless. I was in a new city, and I didn't know anybody. And the people I started meeting were really into this style of just beat down hardcore. And so I was like, man, I don't know what this is about, but the family, as far as like, let's say family in quotations, the people, the culture, I miss that. I don't know what that's about, and I want to explore that more. So I just kind of like threw myself into it, and I just really loved what it was about. You know, get in and get your aggressions out that you're feeling in the pit, and
Mhm.
then go have a drink and hug your best friend afterwards. Like it's very much so. It was very much so suiting what I was going through at that time of my life. So that's kind of like the basis of, like, I would say, all of this music. And then Emery and Bring the Horizon, you start getting more away from that like thrasher hardcore style, and you get more into like a little more melodic, a little more electronic, but still very heavy, very fast beat, loud, aggressive music, and then kind of transferring into the Ellie Goulding side, more electronic, soft spoken angelic, easy listening music. But I mean, that kind of, I would say that kind of like paints me the best way. I like loud and aggressive, but I also, like something that's mellow or let's say like melodramatic and easy to listen to.
Right.
Yeah. I know when people get to know me and then they find out my style of music, they're very surprised. I'm sure you were a little surprised by what, Jack
The
might be a
the
little surprised too. Seeing, I don't think him and I really got to talk about music, but
We never talked
uh,
about music, man.
yeah, we've
Been
yeah,
together for almost 2 years, and we never
we've
talked
not to,
about music.
got to talk about
the
music.
the
What,
Ellie Goulding, I'll have to admit that was kind of a surprise and is a bit of a departure from the others that we've got on here. Although the album cover itself may just be the draw. I don't know. And if that's the case, I can't blame you.
no, man, that album, like man, I don't know what it is about her. Her lyrics are so powerful and so
Mhm.
impactful, and that's kind of like the base of beatdown hardcore. They're very powerful, very impactful, and
Mhm.
right to the point. And her lyrics are too, man. Her lyrics and her songs, man, they sometimes they just pierce me. I'm like, damn, you got
Yeah,
right to the point with that song. That's what I'm talking about.
Drew,
And
you
that's no, go ahead.
no, I was going to ask Drew what if he is familiar with any of these artists and what
Yeah,
his thoughts
yeah,
are.
for sure. I mean, Ellie Goulding. I mean, I think a lot of us that grew up kind of in Tim and I's generation have seen her kind of come up. I remember actually one of the first conversations Tim and I ever had back in our days around the time that we were both. I was going out and he was coming in at Westport Whiskey and Wine, which is where a lot of us met. We talked about Emery. That was part of both of our kind of faith journeys. Those
Mhm.
guys have a podcast as well, kind of talking through hard questions about the faith and culture and how
Mhm.
we all handle that now. Um, and so we talked a lot about Emery and their podcast as well. But yeah, those are all artists that I've listened to. And then, back when we used to live a couple blocks from each other, Tim and I would get together and have a drink and a cigar. And we listened to a lot of Comeback Kid on my back porch. So yeah, big fans of all those guys. Not super familiar with Bring Me the Horizon, but all good stuff. Yeah.
Mhm. I
100%.
actually dug into Bring Me the Horizon a little bit recently. They are on Tom Morello's new album,
Okay.
the
Oh
guitarist from
yeah.
Rage Against the Machine,
Right
Hmm.
on.
and apparently he plays lead guitar on all these songs, and he has guest artists to come in and sing or be the rest of the band or whatever the case may be. And they've got a song with him on that album. So I don't know
Very
if you've
cool.
seen that yet, not Tim, but it's kind of interesting.
We'll have to throw that on this week's playlist. That'd be cool to see that on
Absolutely.
Spotify.
Yeah, we'll do a playlist of after every show, and we'll definitely include some stuff from the artists that you put out there, Tim. And uh, I think it's a good way to connect people to the music that we're talking about, and they can kind of get that experience as well. Jack, I'm guessing that your musical background might be a little bit different than Tim's.
Uh, Very.
Okay.
I love going to a karaoke show
Yeah.
and request a song to sing
Uh-huh.
because it's just funny when I get on the stage and I start singing, especially for the people that know me because I have an accent, right?
Right.
So what I like to shock people with all the time is I always request a song and then I get on the stage, just go beep, 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 beep. I work down at the pizza pit. I drive a no Hyundai. So funny thing is, one of my favorite artists. I've done a lot of choir when I was growing up.
Mhm.
So for me, I love amazing vocalists. That's one of my favorite thing about music.
Yep.
But I also like simple music. So people that
Mhm.
like who can use one guitar and sing their whole song, or one piano and
Mhm.
just sing the whole song, are one of the things I used to listen to growing up, which is very odd, was Kenny Rogers, right? I used to listen to
Oh
Kenny
yeah.
Rogers growing up. I used to listen to a lot of old country artists, So I mean, for me, the first time I ever seen Tim McGraw was like, oh my god, I went skydiving. I'm like, oh my god, this guy is just, you know, one of my favorite songs that I
God,
listen.
I fucking hate that
I
song.
can listen to. I can listen to over and over. Is him and his ex-wife now. Is I Need You, right?
Yeah.
It's a
I
good
need
tune.
oh need a rain. Like I need oh need a vein. Like my Uncle Joe in Oklahoma needs the rain. So for me, I like, you know, ballet, those ballads,
Hmm.
those songs
Mhm.
that just yank your heart. So, people like, Jason Mraz. I can listen to Jason Mraz all day because I saw him live and the guy just had one guitar and sing his
Mhm.
whole song with it. I can listen to Ed Sheeran because the man can just take one guitar, it, the ukulele to even be even worse, and just play this whole song with a ukulele. Why? And I saw all these people live because I just
Mhm.
respect their music. Um, of course, being from Africa, I listen to a lot of Afrobeat songs
Hmm.
that are from Africa. A lot of African songs always have a story behind it, or there's always a moral of the story behind it. But I grew up in French country, so love songs are a big deal. I love songs are a big deal.
Yeah.
For me, love songs are how you can tell someone how you feel about it. There's an artist, a French artist that I was growing up with. His name is Francis Cabret, and Francis Cabret was probably the biggest poet of his time. Right, we're talking 1970s, 1980s, and late 90s. You want to pick up a girl in school for prom, you better have Francis Cabret songs ready. And mind you, growing up in a French country, you want to talk to a girl, you write her a letter. And it's always good to have fresh lyrics from a song to describe how you feel. So
Right.
that's why like people like Ed Sheeran, and my favorite country artist, which is country is also another thing I listen to, is actually Brad Paisley. I listen
Yeah.
to Brad
Mm.
Paisley all the time. Tear of Mud, Whiskey Lullaby can be on repeat. People say it's a sad song, but I
But
just love
I love that song, man.
that
Yeah.
song
I think that's the greatest opening line of any country music song ever.
ever, ever,
The
right?
first
Whiskey
first
Lullaby
two
does it
sentences, every time.
right? So I love that song, but another thing that most people don't know about me, because I love vocalists, is I love real orchestra and opera
Mm.
songs, right? So Andrea Bocelli is
Mhm.
one of my all-time favorite singer. Why? His
Mhm.
favorite song is Vivo Perle. Vivo Perle is just gets you right. Those big vocal songs. The man is blind right now, very 100% blind. But I'm I'm just trying to figure out where to go see him because it's gonna be his last tour in America, and I'm even gonna go see him because these are people that when I was growing up,
Hmm.
coming from a little bit of a broken home, you want a song that reminds you that love exists, right? That you are needed, that
Yeah.
you are loved, and that your feelings matter. And these people's words were like gold to me, right? You know, uh, Francis Cabral used to say, being a writer is as hard as being a cupid because as I look at you through your eyes, it reminds me that the sun rises where hope starts.
Mm.
And I wanted to tell you that I wrote this lyrics from the ink of your eyes. And the
Damn.
title of the song is The Ink of Your Eyes. And I
Damn.
say,
Whoa.
people don't
I'm
tell
about to
that to
ask you to
people
prom.
anymore. Right? Right.
Woo! By the way, will you
Right.
go to prom with me?
Right. Yeah. So I'm an old soul at heart when it comes to song that I enjoy because all these artists, Francis Cabrel, Jean-Jacques Goldman, Garou, you know, all these songs they're all 19 or early 80s artists or 70 artists,
Hmm.
but they reminds you that love is simple, right? You just have to know how to express them and express the feelings and put it in words. They just put it so beautifully. So that's really why people are like, oh, country music is like, oh, I killed my dog, my wife left me, and that. And I'm like, no.
Nope.
If you listen to a good country songs, is as comparable to a French song about love. Is comparable to the Andrea Bocelli, so comparable to a Jason Mraz. These people are all saying the same thing. Love is above everything.
Yeah. I love that common thread. It definitely runs through all that music. Right there with you, Jack. And next time you're in Louisville, hit me up, and I think we could probably pull Tim and Kevin into that. We'll go to Akiko's, and we'll do some Waylon Jennings.
Yeah, right.
We'll do some old country.
We will sing The Highwayman. The
Yes.
four of us will sing The
hell
Highwayman.
yeah.
But now, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. When I'm on the road and I want to listen to something that will keep me afloat and just keep me going for a little bit, some Guns N' Roses will get me going.
Yeah, man.
I can tell you right now, the best prank I've ever played on. I worked when I graduated. I worked for Cabret, and it's a construction company, and I was sent into Canada to work, and I was sent in a town that had 200 people as a population. Wow. Surrounding was about 400 people max. Mm-hmm. So in the town, you pretty much knew what you eat all week. Monday was pizza night. So there was one bar that had a stripper every Wednesday. That came from, we lived 2.5 hours away from the city. So you knew what your week looked like. It was probably the worst thing and the best thing.
You had to import in the stripper.
Correct. And you had like one jukebox there. So one day a coworker of mine was mad at me being the business guy. I was taking care of all the invoicing, and the engineer were just fucking up, right? But the engineers were the one who drink the most and stay in the bar the longest. So one of the business guys like, you know what if we take $50 and we put the same song on repeat?
Yes,
get rid of them.
That is my kind of fucking trolling right there. Yes.
So the song was 50 cents. We put $50 in it. So that's 100 times. I don't know if you ever listened to Fat Bottom Girl.
Yes.
But Fat Bottom Girl, after the 10th time of hearing it, you probably want to shoot yourself and die in on the spot. You want to crawl into your brain and start scratching.
Oh man!
Now, was the stripper dancing the Fat Bottom Girl? Was that what was going on?
When we got to the 15th time of Fat Bottom Girls, there were. This is how he started. 50 people in the bar. By the 10th time, about 40 people. By the 15th time, there was about 10 people left. By the 23rd or 25th time, there was only me and that guy left in the bar.
It's funny that you brought up bowling.
Kept going, and by the time we got to the 35th time, the owner walks, and he doesn't even say anything to us. He just walked past us, and he just unplugged the whole jukebox.
It's funny you bring up bowling the jukebox. The Bouncing Souls have a song called "Bowling the Jukebox," and it's exactly about that, taking it over and playing all the songs that you want. There's an app. I haven't used it in about 2 years. I haven't used it since pre-COVID. But there's an app where you can download it. You download it to control jukeboxes at bars, but it's not set up geolocationally. Oh. So you can log into the app and click into any jukebox that's using the software in the town. Yeah.
Oh man.
Guess what this guy's been doing? I haven't done it in about 2 years, but there was plenty of nights where I would just put all the same song on and be like, all right, cool, I'm going to go to the next one. Yeah.
Nope.
I think I might have been at the Pearl in Germantown when you were doing that from home, Tim.
Wow.
It's one of those things where I will tell you, I love a little bit of rock and roll. I think coming from Africa, you get influenced by multiple culture, European culture,
Sure.
Jew culture, even some of Arabic culture. Africa have multiple languages, so you kind of embraced by everything. But me, I've always been a romantic at heart. So for me, if a song does not, for me to sit, I sat down and listened to, a whole album of Celine Dion growing up. One of the women, when I was growing up, that was just a big influence. Her name is Nana Mouskouri. She's Russian born, Russian or what do you call it? Slovak born that grew up in France, and her name is Nana Mouskouri. And her one of the songs that every time my dad whooped my ass, I wanted to listen to is called "Adieu Angelina," right? And she's talking about losing something that is so close to you that God Himself can replace it. So she has this, like, you see the person that stand in the front of the choir and go, "Oh, I do." You're like, that guy you hate. Like, your voice is way too high for the rest of the crowd. The falsetto guy.
Right.
She had that voice permanently. But beautiful per song. I would listen to Adieu Angelina on repeat for 50 times.
Wow.
It's just had this monotone, literally monotone, dun 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 dun, and she kept going. She would keep going. Anybody will be driven insane by it, but because I was in pain and hating everything about my parents, I just want to stay in this corner and listen to this woman just scream in my ear the whole time. And I just when the first chance I got to get a phone, when I got the old iPod, remember the circle one
Yes.
that you plugged in your, that's the first song I downloaded. I need Angelina, right? Goodbye Angelina. I need that one first before I download anything else.
That's great.
That's great. Yeah, that's part of the beautiful thing of music is there are songs that you have such a connection to because of a time or a place and an emotion from that time and place that it's with you forever.
Yep. Yeah, we talk about that a lot on this show.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a little bit, Jack, and obviously Tim and Drew chime in as well, about the influence that African music has had on American popular music. And I've pulled a few artists that I think have had some pretty significant influence over the years, and I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, see if it's something you're familiar with, and if you think it's authentic or you think it's BS.
Yeah.
So what I've got on here is
Talking Heads.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul Simon's Graceland album is won the Grammy for Album of the Year. But it was heavily influenced by African music, and he used a lot of African musicians on it and vocalists as well. Peter Gabriel, a lot of his music has that kind of influence, and Biko is a song about Stephen Biko, who was imprisoned under the apartheid laws in South Africa. Talking Heads, that Remain in Light album has a lot of heavy African, they say has a lot of heavy African influence, especially in the drums. And then the gentleman in the bottom left is Remy Kabaka. I don't know if that's a name you're familiar with or not. But
no, I'm not. I heard the name before, but I'm surprised he didn't have what do you call him there? What's his name? The Nigerian artist, Femi.
Oh yeah,
Femi. Femi probably Fela. Fela is the dad.
Hmm.
Fela McCaffrey. Um, um, you know, Fela Kuti, right? Fela Kuti.
Fela Kuti.
Yeah, Fela Kuti. I mean, every Afrobeat song that anybody knows today, this man was probably the king of Afrobeat, right? Fela
Okay.
Kuti is the king of Afrobeat. He's the one, most of the, I would say, last 10 year, all the young
Hmm.
people, all their singing come from Fela. Fela is everything that is Africa beat, you know,
Yeah.
the first person to actually ever jump on to actually have a true African, I would say, music career behind. Mind you, he also had 20 wives and bunch of children. Right? He's everything that Africa represent as a whole. He took um
Hmm.
Fela Kuti took the name of Afrobeat to be recorded for the first time. If you look up
Mm-hmm.
Fela, today people know a name like Burna Boy. Burna Boy, if you listen to the name Burna Boy dad actually used to be Fela Kuti, band manager and also producer.
Okay.
So all of these old songs still
Hmm.
repertoire is still there. Femi
Sure.
is his son. Son also took over dad. But Fela was probably the king of West African Afrobeat music. Paul
Mm-hmm.
Simon, if when I want to talk about Paul Simon, I like to say is a black man in a white body. That's how I describe Paul Simon.
Yeah.
Paul Simon did not lose his authenticity, but he really inspired himself on the beat. I like to say the heart of the beat of African music, and he's not ashamed to say it, right? Uh, I mean, till today, I was just at a concert yesterday of a Straight No Chaser.
Hmm.
Anybody went to bend away from me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I read Christmas back in Africa because truly those are the beat that we have in it. I think he have a lot of songs that I knew growing up that I didn't even know he was a white man. I just thought it was part of our song.
Hmm.
Right.
Simon and Garfunkel songs were for me is just that's just an everyday song till I saw the album cover, which in my case was a vinyl cover, and uh, and I'm like, oh, these are white men, white people singing that song.
I've got the album, the vinyl
Yeah,
album right over my shoulder here.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was crazy because the first time I actually saw the vinyl cover, I'm like, oh, it's the white people. I thought they were just Africans because they just sing really well. Um, I don't know, Biko. I did hear the song, and
Yeah.
obviously, I don't know about the gentleman at the bottom or the people on the top. But obviously, you had my favorite all night long.
I don't have Lionel Richie in there, but
Oh no, I feel Lionel Richie. I'm sorry. What's
that's
the
Stevie
Stevie
Wonder.
Wonder's in the bottom
Stevie?
right, and then
Stevie.
then
The funny thing, I can listen to a song and know it's Stevie,
yeah.
but if you ask me any song of Stevie, only thing I can think of is the Happy Birthday song. Am I the only one that is that way? Like I
Happy
feel like, yeah,
birthday.
Yeah,
my black
there you
card
go,
needs to be
Tim.
Happy
revoked because I
birthday.
know a lot of Stevie songs. If you
Mhm.
play it, I'll be like, "Well,
Sure.
that's Stevie Wonder."
Right.
Sure.
But if you ask me right now, sing one of Stevie's songs,
Mhm.
I'll be like, "Happy Birthday."
Oh man.
That's
I know it's
incredible.
terrible, but that's literally all I can think of when it comes to Stevie Wonder. Is even though I know a lot of songs of
Mhm.
Stevie,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, that's fantastic. Guys, any thoughts on any of the artists that I threw up here, or as it relates um, to
I
the
mean,
African music
the one that
influence?
sticks out, the one that sticks out for me the most is Talking Heads for
Yeah.
sure. I love how Jack said Paul is a black man trapped in a white man's body. I mean, if you go back and listen to some of his music when you started seeing it evolve that way, I think that's such a great way to put it because I mean, that dude totally transitioned. He fell in love and he was like, "This is all I'm gonna do, and
Hmm.
everybody else can just f off." Like This
Right.
is sorry if you don't like it. This is what I'm doing. I think
Right.
I love that about him. But yeah, those are the two. Those are the two that stick out to me the most for sure. If it comes to that genre specifically, for sure.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of influence in jazz music uh, from the African side of things, and a lot of people say that rock and roll itself
Sure.
was born. The seeds of rock and roll were in Africa, and came over here, and just it all grew from that.
I mean, there is there is one of these artists, Chicken Jafakoli, it was his name when I was growing up. He's one of those Rastafarian, right? Very
Right.
Rastafarian, very. I'm gonna blow your mind with facts of song that I have. But he says the best thing. He said colonization is something that have evolved things that we refuse to push in the African culture. He said they said life started in the African continent. Even
Mhm.
writing came from Africa. But he said today you will sit there and tell yourself you're making music. But if you go back, um, there is in French they say balafon. Balafon is like I think it's a xylophone.
Okay.
Those things that bing bing you
Right.
just beat on. So he said the xylophone, as you know, it used to be rocks, right? Rocks that made different noises.
Right.
He said the xylophone is now the piano that you say you're playing. The balafon. So the balafon was used by the griot. The griots of Africa were the messengers of Africa, right? So if there was a war between two tribes or there was something to announce in a village, you send the griot. The griot will come with this. If you look up griots, they had this big balafon, which was made out of a gourd with
Mhm.
string attached to it that he would play to actually announce the news, because bad news was better announced with music. And these people had big, and as kids, even while I was very young, when we go to the village, you would sit around a griot, which were what they called the keeper of knowledge at night, and everybody would take their little, centime or little cent and put in his little gourd, and he would tell you all a story from the old times, right? So he said the balafon is now the guitar that you are playing,
Mhm.
right? So he said one of the gourds that we used to use to tell other warriors that they were ready to go is now your trumpet. And even writing come from Africa. But what we refuse to accept is that what we have as original have evolved with colonization. So he is telling you as kid while we were listening to this song is like, oh, I didn't know that the xylophone that people play with rocks. I
Right.
seen a real authentic xylophone, which is with rocks on little bamboo stripe that we would play for music. Where now, the piano that we would play. So that's one of the things that people don't think about. Those instruments that you know today, what instrument inspired those instruments?
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's
That's
great.
awesome. All right. Well, guys, I think we're getting close to wrapping this one up. Anything else you want to talk about in terms of your music or the whiskey or your show?
Oh man.
Every Monday.
Every Monday.
Every
Monday
Monday.
sucks. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Come stop by, listen to us, Jack and I, bitch about things going on in the industry, talk about things in the industry, have people from the industry on the show. It's been a really cool show for the industry and the community. So definitely stop by that. If you're in Louisville or you're planning to come to Louisville, please stop by and see me. I'm at Evergreen Nulu, awesome tasting bar and retail store. Come in, get some bottles of whiskey, have some drinks of whiskey you're probably never going to see anywhere unless you got deep deep pockets.
Yeah. It's a well-stocked store and a well-stocked tasting bar. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love going there because I can actually just hang out with my friend and actually drink some stuff. Funny thing is, that's the hangout spot now from everybody on the
It is.
internet.
It's
Everybody was
becoming
stopping by. Like, it's almost cool now to stop by there and just take a picture with Tim. And you'll be surprised when you meet there, because I went there, I'm like, I know you. I know you. Like, yeah. Because funny
Right.
thing is, I don't know anybody's name unless your name is Kevin Rose. But I don't know anybody's name. I know everybody's name by their handle. So,
Right.
I'm like, you were whiskey 22310, right? That's me, right? Like, yeah, that's
Yep.
me. Like, okay,
Yep.
I know you now. And then they turn on like they have a boring name like Tyler. You're like, I'd rather use your your Instagram handle. That works better. You're much cooler. But if you're on the internet and you're looking around, Hood Sommelier, that's HOODSOMMELIER. That's Hood Sommelier, just like you hear it. A little bit of Hood, a little bit of French, but on all the platform, look me up. I'm all about education. I'm the crazy guy that drink all spirits, and every now and then, one of the things I've done is create a platform for whiskey lovers. I wanted to create a platform where people can actually express themselves. It seemed like everybody have more of a set platform. So I created The Truth is Barrel Proof, which is a 5-minute podcast. So I get all the whiskey people to participate. 5-minute review, live review of a spirit you enjoying, and you give them the note, something interesting about the distillery, the bottle, and your tasting note.
Well, that's
And
awesome.
send it to me, and I'll post it and tag you and put all your information down so people can know what you think about it. So help all the new people or somebody at the store trying to pick up a bottle and don't know what to think about it. 5 minutes in your ear, you get to hear somebody tell you what to think of it in real life.
That's great.
Love it. Love it. Drew, tell people where they can find you on social media, and then
Yep.
tell everybody about our next show.
Absolutely. Follow me on Twitter at Drew Crawley 63, and then on Instagram at Drew Crawley 63. Twitter is for being a sarcastic asshole. Instagram is for music. Also, just a moment of personal privilege, I guess. I've got music up now on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon. So go stream my single. We'll have a full album or a full EP coming out later this year. Excited to share that with everybody. Also, big thanks to Tim and Jack. Go give them a follow. Check out their show.
Absolutely.
Mondays is it 9 p.m.?
Yeah, that'll be
9:30.
7:30
Nine-
Standard, 8:30 8:30
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yep.
You would be
go-
late for your own show, Tim.
Go check
Don't
those
worry,
guys
we've
out.
done that a few times.
Go
Did
check
it
those
last
guys
week.
out. And then next week, come back, check out with myself, Kevin, and Ben. We're going to be talking some wild turkey, one of all of our favorites. I've got my stockpile sitting right across the way here. We're also going to be doing something pretty unique and talking about WKRP in Cincinnati as part of our Thanksgiving show. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a really, really good time. Looking forward to joining you guys all for that.
You remember that show from back in the late 70s, early 80s?
Holy smokes. Look at that.
And we'll be talking about the music from that show and the famous or infamous Turkeys Away episode as a part of our Thanksgiving show, which will air on November 24th. So as for myself, you can find me on Facebook under Kevin Rose, and on Instagram under Kevin7673, and Bourbon Turntable is at Bourbon Turntable on Instagram, and you can find us also on YouTube and on Facebook. So please like, follow, share, do all that great stuff that everybody wants you to do. We truly appreciate it. And Jack, Tim, you guys are some of the only guests that we've had on the show before you was Alan Bishop. So
All
that
right.
kind of
It is
shows.
Alan Bishop after all.
It's Alan Bishop. I'll take that. I'll take that second place.
I'll
So-
take
that second
Alan
place.
Bishop.
Let's go. Let's go.
That shows the regard that we hold you guys in, and in all sincerity, I do appreciate you being on here. Love what you all are doing, and I'm very proud to call you friends. And so, as we're wrapping up the show, just look forward to talking with everybody next time. And cheers, love, and Freebird.
Cheers.
Woo.
Cheers.
Hey yo.